Sean here from Kayak Flyer. Mike from over at the Frugal Fly Rider turned me on to something the other day, and it is a little airbrush. But what makes this special is it holds a Sharpie. And so what he suggested I do was cut off the end of an old Sharpie. You put it in there, and then it's just like putting the cap on your regular Sharpie, and it holds the paint down here. And I've just had this for a few days, but I'm really excited about it. I think Mike really had a great idea. And if you don't know who Mike is, you can go back and listen to the Kayak Flyer, our podcast. We had Mike on as a guest a while back, and when his new studio is done, we're hoping that he'll be back on again. And you can check out his YouTube page at Frugal Fly Rider. So what I did, the first thing I did was I started to look at, I've been on a foam fly craze, and it came down to a popper. I thought, well, I had yellow popper bodies, but I didn't want to just throw a straight yellow popper body. And this was the Krebs popper that I got from River Road Creations. So I painted the bottom of the popper green, and then I went up the sides and I used an orange. And so I've got a nice faded color from green to orange on this little popper, and I think it turned out really well. I really like it. It really is pretty. Another thing that I did was I took one of the hoppers, and this is the Supreme hopper, again from River Road Creations, and so I tied it, and then I took a black Sharpie and I just sort of, see if we can get that to focus, I just sort of did a light speckling of black on that to give it just a little bit more realistic view. And again, I was very pleased with it. So I thought, well, let's give this sort of the ultimate test. Let's see sort of what we can do. And this was the biggest one I'd done so far. So I took some Baitfish cream Congo hair, just Baitfish. Usually I'll stack a couple of colors in there. I might put a little bit of red in for a gill, maybe put a little bit of orange in for a sunfish, have at the top green and the bottom the baitfish. And I may have got a little overzealous here. The red sort of oversprayed, so I've got to work a little bit on that. But this is sort of what I came up with. And again, this is all just using Sharpie. We'll have some of these photos on Instagram, so I'll go back through and I'll put eyes up here. But this is just Sharpie, that green. You can fade it down. You can do it darker on the very top. You can do a darker green. Like I said, I got a little overzealous with the red there. And then you can rotate it over. You've got a little bit of orange down there for color. And then you've got your white bait fish. And, this is, one material. You tie in one piece. It's probably the easiest fly there is to tie if you're looking to catch fish, especially smallmouth bass or more aggressive fish. Especially when they're feeding up pre-spawn or just coming off the spawn. This works really well. If you swim it near a bed, they're going to hit it. I know some people don't like to do that. I do it, I'm sorry. But this is just a really neat pattern that I've used a lot. And instead of pulling out 3 or 4 different types of Congo hair, I just wanted to see what I could do with the airbrush, because sometimes there's a color that you want to get that you just don't have right now. And the airbrush is giving me a little bit more room. So when we have Mike back on the Kayak Flyer podcast, download it anywhere you download podcasts, we're going to talk a little bit more about this particular item. And I'm sure he's going to have videos on Frugal Fly Rider as well. But I just wanted to come out and say that it was a great product. I really appreciate Mike coming on or coming to me and talking to me about this, and actually ordered it. Got here, it comes from Japan. It took a little bit longer to get here than it's not a prime next day delivery. It took me 3 weeks to get it. I had an old airbrush compressor from a defunct airbrush, hooked it right up, worked great. So it's a great little product if you're wanting to get a little bit more adventurous, if you're wanting to do something where you can actually, not take a Sharpie, but you can actually spray paint or Sharpie paint your fly. Like I said, I think this turned out really well. Really smooth color. You can see some of the yellow underneath it. Of course, I left the front plain yellow I dappled to that bottom just a little bit. Came out really nice. Again, so did the hopper. Let me pull these legs together. I'd been marking these with stripes for a grasshopper. I think that if I'd used a tan thread instead of black, I would have knocked this one out of the ballpark. Again, these foams are from River Road Creations. So, you can do a lot with a little, with just some practice and some things like that. So anyway, I encourage you to head on over to Kayak Flyer, the podcast. If you want to ask questions of any of our guests, we actually record live on Monday nights. You can view and ask questions at facebook.com/losetheradio. That's our podcast network, and you can actually come on and ask questions. We just had Justin from Right Bobbin on. We got some really good guests lined up. CEO of Tenkara USA. I know there's a lot of Tenkara fishermen out there, coming on April 6th. We've just got a huge amount of guests. We record every Monday night unless there's a tornado or the flu. So we'd really like for you to join us and go over and check out the Frugal Fly Rotter and help support some of our friends. Thanks.